Sunday evening in Saudi Arabia offered up a bit of redemption for Sergio Perez. A year on from taking pole in Jeddah and losing the race due to an untimely safety car, the Mexican wasn't about to let history repeat itself as he went on to dominate the 2023 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. He handled everything that was thrown at him to capture his fifth career victory and, more importantly, a statement of intent for the 2023 championship. As we finish the second race of the season on a totally different track, the pecking order of Formula One in this season is becoming clearer, and now that begs the question, is Sergio Perez the only legitimate threat to Max Verstappen's title defense? Well, we're going to look for an answer to that question, and also take a look at whether this teammate pairing is already experiencing some tension. Since joining Red Bull, Sergio Perez has played the role as a number 2 almost better than anybody. He's helped Verstappen to 2 Drivers' World Championships, and he made a leap forward last season to help Red Bull dominate the constructors. But Perez is as competitive as they come, and the start of every season offers up a chance to be a championship challenger. And with the dominant showing of the RB19 so far, it's clear that the only driver able to challenge Verstappen's crown will be the one in the same car next to him. But is the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix a one-off for Perez, or the start of a contending campaign? We only have 2 races worth of data to look at, but early suggestions are that Perez is slightly closer to his teammate in 2023. When we look at the qualifying gap in Bahrain, Perez was only a 10th off of Verstappen's pole lap, but unfortunately in Saudi Arabia, we couldn't get an accurate read. A driveshaft issue forced Verstappen out of Q2, and although his Q1 lap was good enough to start P4 on the grid, he wasn't able to show his ultimate pace. Perez's best Q3 lap was 0.5 faster than Max's best lap in Q1, so it's not hard to imagine that Verstappen had plenty of pace in hand. But qualifying pace aside, Perez put on a really impressive display of race pace that was key to him winning this Grand Prix. After the lucky safety car, Verstappen was P2 on lap 25, and many thought he was in for another winning comeback. But Checo had all the answers on the hard tire, and it took Verstappen 12 laps just to get the gap down from 5.4 seconds to 4.3 seconds, which goes to show just how hard Perez was pushing. This gap remained constant despite some mechanical worries from both drivers, and in the end it was enough for Perez to cross the line in first. The big question will come in the following races as to whether Perez can keep up with his teammates' race pace. We know Perez is quite strong on street circuits, so hopefully Jeddah is not a one-off, but as things stand in the pecking order, the Mexican might be F1's only hope at a close championship battle. If you've come to hear an optimistic outlook on how the 2023 championship will be a close fight between multiple teams and that the gap will be closer on certain tracks, well, you've come to the wrong place. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix all but confirmed our worst fears that Red Bull is a dominant force to be reckoned with this year. Not long removed from 7 years of Mercedes domination, it feels all but similar with how Red Bull has started this new era. It has even prompted Lewis Hamilton to say post-race that the RB19 is the fastest car that he's ever seen. Maybe Hamilton's latest cars have been so slow that he's forgotten just how good those Mercedes seasons were, but nonetheless, the Red Bull is mighty fast. But realistically, who else is there to challenge Red Bull? It is only the second race of the season, but the answer is almost certainly no one. Red Bull's closest 2022 challenger has somehow taken a step back this season, and Ferrari looks lost and deflated. Leclerc's one-lap pace is putting him within touching distance of the Red Bulls, but the SF23's race pace is seeing them tumble down the order. Not to mention a grid penalty in the second race of the year gives Ferrari huge reliability concerns moving forward. The pain for the Tifosi is not any easier, considering they seem to have even been overtaken by their rivals in green. Aston Martin has started the season with 2 straight podium finishes, and right now seem to have the second best car on the grid. In the hands of Alonso, the AMR 23 looks competitive for a podium every weekend, and possibly even a victory here or there. But although Aston Martin looks the most competitive next to Red Bull, they are still miles off of Perez and Verstappen on average. Red Bull looks to have a second-a-lap pace advantage, and their car is strong in all areas. It looks as though we could be in for a similar season like 2019, in which one team dominates the first quarter of the season and builds a comfortable championship gap before the rest of the field catches up. The relationship between Max and Checo has been a very solid one since 2021. They've worked together well to defeat the Mercedes dynasty and ward off the threat of Ferrari in 2022. But it hasn't been without some bumps in the road, and the signs of potential tension were there again in Jeddah. Both Red Bull cars were nursing some mechanical issues, and Perez was worried with how hard his teammate was pushing him. Instead of bringing the cars home, Verstappen ignored calls from his race engineer to lap at a 1:33.0 pace, which prompted Perez to ask his engineer why they were pushing. The simple answer was that they couldn't slow Max down. It wasn't until 4 laps to go that Verstappen realized he couldn't catch his teammate, and then he obeyed his targeted lap times. Although the chase against his teammate was over, the chase for the fastest lap wasn't. Verstappen pushed on the last lap of the race, ultimately scoring the extra championship point and denying Perez of leaving Jeddah as championship leader. The post-race confusion from the Mexican was evident, and Perez is seeking clarification from the team going forward. So is a driver war brewing at Red Bull, and will it get worse if it's just Red Bull fighting for the championship? It's far too early to tell, and reading too much into this can cause unnecessary drama. But it's clear that since Brazil 2022, Perez has more to think about in terms of his place in the team, and he's not about to let Verstappen dominance be established this season, especially with a genuine shot at the Drivers' Championship.